Hello and welcome to another game of Dota 2. I have not posted in a while because I am lazy and I have been distracted doing many other things like playing the game a bit too much. Yay! Anyway, another high level match. I think I've done a few low level ones recently, so it's nice to do a high one. We got a few people. We got Chris Luck. Some other people I've never seen before, Analog, Lely. Yeah, there's a few pros in this game. It's a pretty high skill match. I think it's around 8k. Let's get last hits up. Let's get the free camera going, and let's, I don't know, have a look around. Let's have a look. So in the mid lane, we will have a Shadow Fiend into the Ember Spirit. Wonder what the Jug is doing here at the moment. Is he just cutting trees for fun? Maybe. He might just be. And we have Shadow Fiend into Ember Spirit. We see them trying to get their wards down, hiding to place their wards. With Ember Spirit for the Dire, Shadow Fiend for the Radiant. In the top lane, we have Juggernaut Techies. Techies is a bit of an unusual 5. More often played as a 4, as I understand it. Laning against Sanking Treant for the Radiant. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, we have Anti-Mage Cottle laning into a tiny Dark Willow. No immediate winner for any of these lanes, as far as I can see. Mid lane could very much go either way. Shadow Fiend, if he does manage to pick up a combo, will do a huge amount of damage. Ember isn't the most tanky hero, and so there's definitely kill potential that way. But, by the same token, the Ember does a lot of damage and has a pretty high skill gap. Skill ceiling, might be able to dodge a raise with a slight and disjoint the combo. Also has a lot higher, oh boy, I missed that, oh well. A lot higher base damage, especially to start with, so could really get that CS advantage to start with. And that will stunt the Shadow Fiend quite a lot if you can't get a very easy level 2. But we do see him pick up 2 denies in the first wave, which is pretty impressive. Meanwhile, if we have a look at what exactly happened up top, Tree is actually low. Let's have a quick look. No, Tree's up top. I am very silly. Tree's up top. I lost track already. It looks like a lot of stuff happening. Must have been a suicide with spin. Don't know if suicide applies to slow. I don't believe so, but I shall double check. No, just a silence. But if you add that to spin, quite a lot of damage. Level 1 would not surprised it managed to pick up a kill.
Move faster.
In terms of who wins this lane, I don't think there's a very clear winner. Techies is a reasonably strong laning support, but and Jug is also quite a strong laner. But Tree, powerful position 4, little slow but can juke through trees to disjoint the spin. Similarly, the Sand King can get away from spin with Burrow Strike, and also Sandstorm sort of allows him to cut waves, play around, dodge the matchup if it all goes badly. So I could see this being a very even lane, maybe with a few deaths here and there, depending on if people sort of make specific mistakes. For example, here, would not be surprised to see a death on the bottom from the Anti-Mage. Hadn't gotten around to that lane yet, but will in a second, as soon as I see if this Techies is going to deny himself. We'll get it off. No, he won't. He will die to the tree, which means they might be able to pressure the Jug in his absence. It looks like they will quite happily trade, and Jug will have to fall back for the time being. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, it is a difficult lane for both sides. The offlane definitely has very strong kill potential. As we saw, there was the level 2 spike, which gave Avalanche a lot of damage, especially if they managed to hit that before the Anti-Mage didn't catch that. However, with the Avalanche toss combo and the right damage on Tree, it does allow Tiny to really dominate this lane. Will have a lot more damage than the Anti-Mage. And the combo is very, very dangerous. Anti-Mage can't exactly blink out of it. But, by the same token, if he can't land his kill combo, because the Anti-Mage is just constantly wearing his mana down, because it does require quite a lot of mana, and Kotl trades very efficiently, And with the mischance, he can prevent the Tiny from denying to some extent. If they can manage to play this more of a war of attrition and just play the lane defensively, not get caught in the combo and keep the mana down low, there will be no opportunity for the Tiny to blow up the anti-mage in the laning phase. Obviously he's already found one, but one death very early on is acceptable. It's not going to ruin your game. Unless it's something particularly big, say you die instantly on first meta as TB. But in this case, it's not exactly thrown the lane. Anti-mage still has okay, if not ideal farm. And as a result of that death, the Tiny has no mana to follow up with kills later on. But he is going low. They do commit forward onto the Tiny. And a blink to dodge the combo just barely keeps him alive, and the Tiny will fall. Meanwhile, more kills happened in the top lane. Didn't quite catch which way they went, but I'm going to assume... I can check with the chat log. Another kill on the techies, and they managed to kill the Jug, so it certainly seems to be all coming up for the Radiant at the moment. Dark Willow falling low. Kotal going a 1-1-1 build. A little bit rough. I don't think the first level Chakra Magic is really enough to sustain the constant use of both your spells, but in a lane that's as pressure as this, both skills are very useful. Kotal is sort of spoilt for choice when it comes to skill build. All his skills are very good. At least if you're in a lane where you can use them. Toss combo onto the anti-mage. As I said, if he does manage to make it work, then anti-mage is a fragile hero and will die, as we saw right there. Well, it might be something to consider, as it does seem like the Dark Willow was found and went down, but Ember is here and they will find the Kotal. Oh, perhaps he gets the Ancient Denial? No, they find him just at the right time, and Techies once again manages to fail to kill himself, which is always quite funny to think about. But one has to consider if killing the Tiny and letting him come back with full mana actually isn't a good thing in this lane. Because your win condition in this lane is not dying as an anti-mage and being able to farm, and Tiny is only really able to kill you with full mana so he can pull off the full combo. Either way, no core in this game is having a truly awful time. The bottom lane are having the worst time of it. Mid lane, Shadow Fiend is winning relatively heavily, so let's have a check-in with the mid lane. I've missed some of the more interesting parts of it, which is certainly the first few waves. The pre-6 is definitely where I find the most interest from the mid lane. After that you get more into the mid game where they start rotating around, at least in some matchups. Ember certainly could. Shadow Fiend could also, probably however wants to maximise his farm in the jungle, hidden item timing, perhaps a specific level, and then look for the rotation. I don't know enough about the hero to know exactly when those timings are, however. Am I recording? I really want to check. Yes, I am. Wonderful. Would be very sad if I wasn't. Now, it looks like on the top lane, I missed the map for a second, but the Sand King will go down. Quick suicide. Fozza manages to duke out the spin, but cannot dodge the mind hidden in the trees. That is the truly frustrating thing about techies. The mental game, the mental pressure that he applies. You never feel quite safe in a game against the techies. Anytime you're playing in the jungle, especially the opponent's jungle, could die. Duking becomes truly a bit of a nightmare. Techies may have been constantly dying, but it has secured a reasonably strong lane for the Jug. Ember now rotating in. If they can get a kill on the Sand King, it really, really harms his game, but do they have detection? Techies falling low will almost certainly die because he doesn't have suicide up. Pops the Fairy Fire, manages to slip away, and they find the Sand King at the same time. Very, very damaging for the Sand King. His TP is now on cooldown. He doesn't have one at the moment, but he did just TP back to lane after dying once. And so he will have to do the walk of shame back to lane. Meanwhile, Shadow Fiend, having the time of his life, managing to pressure towers quite happily.
The Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Ember TPing back to base, leaving a remnant. He can then go back out. slight chains up the Shadow Fiend so he can then run forward to the bottle, but takes so much damage doing that that it may not have been worth it. Obviously, giving the Shadow Fiend a haste rune is almost a guaranteed kill on either him or someone on the side lane, so perhaps it's worth a fair amount of his health and his entire bottle twice over. Hard for me to make that decision. Certainly I could understand it. Maybe he is trying to find a rotation with the tail end of this haste rune, but it runs out and he fails. Meanwhile, up top, they find the techies once again, but Sand King is low. Sand King is always low in this lane. He's not having a very good time, whereas Jug has healing ward to sustain himself, has raindrops. Certainly not having the greatest time resource-wise, but is getting what he wants out the lane. Sand King now starting to kind of fall behind, having been pretty heavily pressured in the past few minutes. And Techies doesn't really mind about these deaths. He would be preferring to deny himself, but it's a hero that dies a lot anyway, if you're playing it in that style. He does only have 1 point in the blast off, but I mean, it's a hero that jumps and takes a huge amount of damage. It's not too surprising he dies, and he's trading his life to win the lane, which is sort of okay. Stunts his game, but I think as a position 5 techies, you're never going to quite come online with that huge Ags until sort of the ultra late game anyway, so I doubt that's really a concern. As a position 4, maybe you don't do this so much because you are expected to pick up a fair amount of farm. And at least do more, have a bit more, do a bit more around the map, especially offensively, but perhaps as a position 5, this is the correct play. Meanwhile down bottom, Anti-Mage seems to mostly have recovered from a bit of a rough laning phase. Might get caught in the toss combo here and will fall. Gets a bit too greedy looking for that Dark Willow kill. Almost finds it with the Mana Void, and a courier gets sniped on the back of the tree and rotation. Overgrowth is popped, and there is a Coddle Blast which will find the Tiny. Ember rotation in, however, should kill the tree with the Dark Willow in pursuit. Doesn't have any follow-up, and it seems like they will get away with a 1-for-1 trade. This absolutely... I'm not sure. It certainly feels like it favours the Dire as they killed the position 1, but if they lose this mid tower, and it was around a catapult wave, very bad. If they can find the Shadow Fiend here, however, it will definitely have all been worth it. He's caught by the Will-O-Wisp, but he manages to bait them out with the illusion. Another Sleight of Fist up in a couple of seconds. And chains up. Now will he go forward? Tiny is also here. Puts the chains down, toss onto him, and he dodges the Death Blast with the Remnant, finds the double kill. Massive victory for the Dire there. Shadow Fiend overextended because the Ember was in a different lane. He goes and helps that lane, and then that lane comes and helps him and finds a kill on the Shadow Fiend. Anti-Mage now being forced away from his lane and into the jungle. Looks like it's going to be quite a rough Battle Fury timing. He has about 3,000 gold. 2,000... no. 3,000 gold, yes, I was right the first time. To farm in just 4 or 5 minutes if he wants to hit a decent timing. Which... well, it's doable, but it's difficult. Especially if the Shadow Fiend gets caught again, as it looks like he might. A lot of damage, however. Doesn't have enough souls for Requiem to really blow up. Will-O-Wisp committed might be enough. Turns around for the double raise. Can he find a third? Only the close range. Only the closest left. Terrorize does manage to hit. Does hit. And the slight change holds him in place. Rooted. Looks for the triple raise. Everyone has to be very careful here. And Anti-Mage jumps in and finds the Will-O-Wisp. This does not go for any more on the Ember, just a few parting shots. It's quite a tense mid lane, as even as the Shadow Fiend can output a huge amount of damage if you manage to misplay your positioning against him. Even if he looks like a very easy kill. If you mess it up, you're really going to feel it. But looks like this mid tower may be denied soon, and that is a bit of a win for the Radiant. It's a huge tower. Opens up access to both jungles, especially this jungle where Jug is farming. Jug going Mask of Madness into Desolator. Haven't seen that build myself on Jug, makes a fair amount of sense though. Just allows you to come online really, really early and fight very early. Desolator a lot of damage, Mask of Madness good is Well, I would have said good for Omni Slash, but it doesn't really make sense. Can you? It's good for farming. I don't know if you can use it in Omni Slash. If you can, then it's quite funky. If not, then it's not great, obviously. Because, well, for Omni Slash, since you can't exactly use Omni Slash if it's silenced. But I'm sure we'll see that interaction a little later, and then my queries will be answered. Right now, let's have a look at the net worth. Jug massively ahead. How many kills does he have? Has 2.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Yes, absolutely dumpstering the anti-mage, 2k ahead at the moment, which is really where you want to be. You don't want to be behind an anti-mage in farm, because you're only going to get more behind on almost all heroes. No, it looks like they might commit forward onto the Shadow Fiend. A lot of action around this mid lane, but looks like it will be a 5-on-5 team fight. The other 2 members of the Radiant are teleporting in. Anti-mage already there, but falls back. No epicenter on the Sand King.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
And they will actually kill the anti-mage. I didn't even see that happen. He got blown up so fast, and all they'll lose is a Techies, which isn't a loss at all. Looks like they are going to keep going forward. The Avatos combo is huge. Omni Slash finds the Cottle in the backlines, and they'll get this tower, no question about it. Dire really starting to steamroll forward. This is the benefit of coming online early, especially when you can get an advantage in the laning phase. If you start to steamroll, you can really choke out the enemies early on and pick up a huge advantage. Obviously, if you play at my bracket, it hardly matters because you will not hold your advantage. You may be able to start the snowball, but it won't pick up any speed. But at such a high level, being strong early on is a huge advantage. Treant getting a bit lucky. The creep gets picked up by Toss instead of him, and he manages to survive the initial burst, but it looks like he'll go down now to a remnant forward from the Ember. Why is he so forward? Doesn't have the overgrowth, and the anti-mage is then found and picked off. Bit of a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, constantly being found by this Tiny, who is just the absolute bane of this anti-mage's existence. Seems to be able to kill him in his combo absolutely reliably. Anti-mage not gonna have a very good timing on his Battle Fury, unfortunately. And Shadow Fiend nowhere near ahead enough to really be able to stall out the game long enough. Sand King also, I wouldn't say Sand King is too far behind, but he's not ahead, and to hold this game, really stall this game out, he'd need to be ahead. Shadow Fiend might almost certainly get caught here. Blink Dagger is on the Tiny. Manages to get the ult off and find the Ember just before, slightly shoddy timing from the Tiny, but the Shadow Fiend will go down here. Tries to get the Courier Snipe at the end and doesn't manage it. Dies a bit too fast. But trading out evenly there for the Ember is not bad. Ember obviously being a pretty big kill. Any core kill, in fact, is quite big. Slightly too early on the counter spell there, and caught with Blink on cooldown. Anti-mage dies again. That is many deaths on the anti-mage now. He's under this ward. It's very... I mean, his whole jungle's warded. He's always in vision. The only place he can farm is triangle, but I mean it's pretty obvious where he is. They can easily smoke and kill him. Not much can really be done, but even then, it's not a fun game for that anti-mage. Hard to pin down how much of it is him being outplayed and how much is down to positioning errors. Techies once again fails to kill himself and is killed by the Sand King, but Sand King then feeds the Juggernaut.
I'll give them a drubbing they'll not soon forget.
Yeah, Anti-Mage gets yeeted by mines. Rage buys back. I'm sensing a death knell for this game already. Yeah. Anti-Mage is sad. I imagine the entire team is tilted at Anti-Mage. Anti-Mage is tilted at Kotl because he's his lane support and that's just how things go. Couldn't tell you whose fault this really was. It feels like it's just a mix of just a general outdraft. Not an outdraft, just being outplayed in general. Fast-paced team won the laning phase. Not too surprising. Ember almost goes down to the Shadow Fiend ult, but manages to run them away. Epicenter might find the jug. It does, in fact, find the jug, but too little, too late. Shadow Fiend and Kotl are already gone down. They find the Dark Willow as well, but Tiny's back in with the Ava combo. Slight in, and a triple and a Remnant Burst finishes off the Sand King. Doubt Tree will be able to get away. Slide up and just whacked to death.
A forest fire begins.
I mean, this is decisive. Techies is starting to plant aggressive mines in the opponent's triangle, which was the only place they were safe to farm. Suddenly, it's odd, for me at least, to see Techies make this. Perhaps he's always been this way, but he feels like he's played much more aggressively, rather than a very defensive, put mines and wait and go boom boom support. It feels like he's all about trying to choke the life out of the other team by taking control of where they want to farm and their map. And it's not something I've really seen until the more recent, not so much just this patch, but more recently, you know, last 3, 4, 5 months of Dota. It certainly felt like this hero, at least perhaps he was always being played like this at a slightly more competent level, but it's definitely trickled down to where I am now. And he feels much more about denying resources to the other team and throwing them off key mentally, rather than just being this defensive, I don't want to push into it support. He feels like he pushes advantages now, rather than throwing them away. Not entirely sure what the Techies' plan is. Possibly just, I see. He wants to bait the Sand King back into the mines to try and find him, but Sand King manages to blink and Burrow Strike past. But Willow is here, and they will finish it off. Maybe the Epicenter just about ticks them out, but no, both survive. Looks like Treant has thrown in the towel here as well. Shadow Fiend is AFKing in spawn. I don't think anything else interesting will happen, so let's pop the speed up just a little bit and just, you know, enjoy the sounds of Dota 2. I don't know. Yeah, Kotl just throwing out waves, avalanche. This isn't very professional, but oh well. I don't think there's too much to say at the moment. That's not very good. They both have a Desolator, Ember and Juggernaut. That's somewhat inefficient. Maybe they'll lose now. I actually doubt it. Basically everyone is asking for the game to end, hence why I am speeding it up. They're reporting the anti-mage. Yeah, I thought so. People were not very happy about that. And yeah, they just start to go down mid. Nothing really happens. Wacky, wacky, wacky. And they take the racks just to be safe, because, you know, who doesn't take racks? And then they go wacky, wacky on the towers, and, I don't know, kill a courier. I'm just saying words, because this game is absolutely over. Hard for me to pin down anything really key from that, except Anti-Mage got dogged, Ember popped off, Techies died a few times. It's an alright game.